At the end of 2 years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. And behold, 7 cows came up out of the Nile, beautiful in appearance and fat, and they began to graze among the reeds. And behold, after them, 7 other cows came up out of the Nile, ugly in appearance and thin, and they stood beside the first cows on the bank of the Nile. But the ugly and thin cows devoured the 7 beautiful and fat cows. And Pharaoh awoke. Then he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. Behold, 7 ears of grain sprouted on a single stalk, full and good. But behold, 7 ears, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouted after them. The thin ears swallowed up the 7 full and good ears. Then Pharaoh awoke. It had been a dream. In the morning, his spirit was troubled. So he summoned all the magicians and all the wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dream, but no one could interpret it for Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh. I must remember my faults today. Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. We both had a dream on the same night, I and he, but each of us had a dream with its own meaning. Now there was with us a young Hebrew, a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the explanation of his dream, just as he interpreted for us. So it happened. I was restored to my position, and the other was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph. They quickly brought him out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothes, and came before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and no one can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you that you only need to hear a dream to interpret it immediately. Joseph answered Pharaoh, Not I, but God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, and behold, 7 fat and beautiful cows came up out of the Nile and began to graze among the reeds. And behold, 7 other cows came up after them, weak, ugly in appearance, and thin. Never had I seen such ugly ones in all the land of Egypt. The thin and ugly cows devoured the first 7 fat cows. They entered their bodies, but one could not tell that they had entered, for their appearance was still as ugly as before. And I awoke. Then I saw in my dream that 7 ears sprouted on a single stalk, full and good. But behold, 7 ears withered, thin, and scorched by the east wind, sprouted after them. The thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears. I told this to the magicians, but no one could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dream is one. What God is about to do, he has shown to Pharaoh. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, is one dream. And the 7 thin and ugly cows that come up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears, scorched by the east wind, are 7 years. There will be 7 years of famine. It is just as I have told Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he has revealed to Pharaoh. Behold, 7 years are coming of great abundance in all the land of Egypt. But after them will come 7 years of famine, and all the abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will consume the land. The abundance in the land will be forgotten because of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. As for the fact that Pharaoh's dream was repeated twice, it means that the matter has been decided by God, and that God will hasten to accomplish it. Now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh also proceed to appoint overseers over the land, to take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They shall gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under Pharaoh's authority, keeping it in the cities. This food shall be a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine that will occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land will not perish because of the famine. The matter pleased Pharaoh and all his officials. Pharaoh said to his officials, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed all this to you, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You yourself shall be over my house, and all my people shall obey your orders. Only in the throne will I be greater than you." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Behold, I set you over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took the ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He clothed him in fine linen garments and put a gold chain around his neck. Then he made him ride in his second chariot, and they cried before him, "Abrek." Thus he was set over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, but without your permission, no one shall lift a hand or a foot in all the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh called Joseph Zaphenath-Paneah and gave him Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, as a wife. Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Then Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentifully. He gathered all the food of the 7 years, during which there was abundance in the land of Egypt, and stored the food in the cities. In each city, he stored the food from the surrounding fields. Joseph accumulated grain like the sand of the sea in immense quantity until he stopped keeping records because it was beyond measure. Meanwhile, 2 sons were born to Joseph before the year of famine came. Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, for, he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house." The second he named Ephraim, for, he said, "God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction." Then the 7 years of abundance in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the lands, but in all of Egypt there was bread. Then all the land of Egypt began to feel hunger, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. So Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph, do whatever he tells you." The famine was over all the face of the earth. Then Joseph opened all the storehouses where there was grain and sold it to the Egyptians, while the famine became severe in Egypt. And all the countries came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph, because the famine was severe over all the earth.